On this podcast, two best friends on opposite coasts of the United States tell each other's stories designed to... Would you stop? I'm trying to record. I know you have a lot to say. On this podcast,
it's witchcraft.
It's 4:20 a.m., the stoned witches hour, the perfect time to get really high and tell true-ish tales of a town haunted by shadow people and a bridge with a troll that may lure you to your doom. Welcome to episode 23 of the Stoned Witches Hour. On this podcast, two best friends on opposite coasts of the United States tell each other's spine-tingling, scary stories designed to harsh their mellow, which may account for why we smoke so much weed. I'm Laylla.
And I'm Hi, and I'm Chelle, and I'm from the East Coast, and here we are, warm, happy, high. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty great. Summertime has rolled in. I'm feeling fabulous. Everything is in bloom, and I have an amazing harvest to share with you.
Can I tell you what's in bloom right now? My freaking allergies. My allergies are in bloom, and it is a bitch, and I hate it, but it's warm, and I love it. You know, I saw this thing on Facebook today, and I so wish this was a reality. I wish that mosquitoes would crossbreed with fireflies, so at the very least, we could see them coming.
But I might not hate them so much if they were like all cute and phosphorescent. That would be fun.
Maybe because I was high, that sounded like a great idea, but I don't know. Fireflies, mosquito. If mosquitoes were like flashy light, at least it'd make the itch less annoying.
I think so too. You know, I don't think there have been as many mosquitoes lately, and I certainly don't think in my travels that I have seen any fireflies this year. I'm very disappointed.
Bummer. Yeah, I have.
Oh, good.
Yeah, for the last couple of weeks I have in the backyard, so that's always nice. Not like years and years ago when we saw a whole field of them, but I occasionally are seeing one or two or three at night.
Yeah, I definitely don't see any around in California, and in my travels, I haven't seen any either. Are you referring to when I got hand fasted with my husband?
I am.
That was a gorgeous night, and it was literally blanketed in fireflies. I
don't think I've ever in my life seen as many fireflies as I have that night.
The only time I've seen as many fireflies was when I was a baby witch, and I was doing a spell to open a portal to Avalon.
We've done that a couple times.
We have indeed. And, you know, I was camping out at was a boyfriend or a former boyfriend at the time. His family had a bunch of fields, and I was with a friend of mine. We were both kind of exploring witchcraft together at the time, and we decided to go camp out in these woods and do some magic. We were going to try to open the realm of Avalon. Basically, we were just going to kind of do this spell work. We were going to do some meditation and you know, go out in the woods and challenge ourselves to be a little scared, you know, see what we could find. And yeah. One of the fun things that we saw on the way out on the four-wheeler was we just had to stop because we crossed through a ditch and a little grouping of trees, and this clearing was filled, literally filled from side to side, top to bottom, fireflies all the way down. That's all you could see was fireflies everywhere. And I miss that kind of view. I haven't seen that in a while.
A midsummer's night dream.
Exactly. It was beautiful. I'm so glad you've gotten to see some, though.
So I hear you puffing on that bong of yours. Let's just dive right into what you smoking.
Today, I am very happy to announce that my straw nana's ready.
Oh my God. Is it as good as what I had was? Oh my God. I have waited for this day.
I have waited for this too. It's amazing. It's phenomenal. You were so spot on.
And does it have like that fruity flavor? Maybe not strawberry banana flavor per se, but kind of that fruity tint almost.
I would say it definitely has a fruity flavor. It's very sweet. It's delicate, almost dare I say a little bit of strawberry.
Oh my God.
with a little bit of like peppery at the back. So I don't know if peppery is the right word, but maybe a little spicy tingle. I'm not sure.
If people could see my face right now and how excited I am over this. Oh my God, that's so pretty.
Light and pretty. It's all ready to
It's so
go.
pretty.
This is an auto flower. I don't know if what you smoke
So
auto
jealous.
flower, but this is from a company called Fast Buds, and this is their straw nano auto flower. And it's fantastic. It grew beautifully. It was very strong, very robust, easy to grow. Took about 13, 14 weeks and then a couple weeks to cure, and it's fabulous.
Wow. How much did you get out of a seed?
I don't weigh it, unfortunately. I use mason jars.
And you just fill a jar till it's full and then go to the next jar?
Yeah, yeah. And once it's a lot of jars in the beginning when it's wet. It's a lot fluffier.
But then it compacts up.
That's right. So I got about 4 jars, 4 of my blue mason jars. So I would say roughly 8 ounces.
I am so glad that worked out because that was just such a tasty, delightful treat.
It's delicious. It's very, very good. I do love that peppery in the back taste, that little bit of spicy. Some of my favorite Jack Hare cultivars have that, and it's delicious. So thank you for the recommendation. Very, very good. I wish it didn't have to take me so long to try it.
Well, unfortunately, because we can't just randomly throw a bud in an envelope and mail it across the country,
So unfair,
I just have to give you seed recommendations.
right? And I'll just keep trying to grow it. And hey, any of you listeners out there, if you have something that you'd like me to try and grow, send me an email, thestonedwitcheshour@gmail.com, and I'll try it.
She is a good grower, guys. I'd definitely give her some suggestions. Just
Well,
saying.
thank you. I do okay, and it's a lot of fun, and it cuts down on my weed bill because, as we know, it gets kind of expensive. Nobody needs to pay that much.
Right?
What are you smoking tonight? Anything delicious?
I am smoking something delicious right now. I know I've smoked this before during the podcast because I feel like I remember talking about it, but I'm smoking Kush mints.
Ooh.
Very delicious. It is, I don't want to say piney, but kinda. I mean, it's not like you're drinking a shot of gin by any stretch, but a little piney. But it's very delicious. It's very dense. This is again one of those where you're kind of better off using a grinder with it because it's just kind of hard to smoke doing the old stuff and pack. So you really are better to use a grinder with it, but a little goes a long way, which is usually what I favor the most. I like it. I'm almost out of it though at the moment. So
Went through it pretty quickly, eh?
Well,
Well, when you like something, you like it.
I had a couple days off, and you know how it is when you have a couple days off in a row and it's warm and you're hanging out, getting high,
Doing fun things, going to
Doing fun
pot festivals. You tend to go through a little bit
you
more
tend
of
to
your
go through it
stash
a
than
little bit
normal.
faster. Yeah, so the Kush Mints is great. It really is. I really wish it was minty, but it's not, but it's good.
Now, I've heard from Fast Buds that their straw nana goes anywhere from 27 to 32% THC. And again, I haven't tested it. I know there's kits out there. I'm broke. I'm lazy. Haven't done it.
So what does that mean? Does that mean you're pretty much guaranteed to have it be at least 27%? Like, how accurate is that statement?
I would say they're pretty accurate, but honestly, how you grow, when you harvest, what type of nutrients you use, if you have any problems with light or humidity, all of those things can affect your trichomes and they can affect the THC content of the final product. There's no way to tell exactly. There's no guarantee, but they can say that they've grown it a few times. Anytime somebody puts a seed out for sale, it really should have been, the genetics should be solid. Every single plant that comes from that should be relatively uniform. And so they could grow some and test it and get an average THC and say, depending on how you grow it or whatever, you're going to get something like this type of THC out of it.
Nice.
Yeah. So how about your Kush mints? What kind of THC do you get there?
Well, per usual, it's relatively on the higher side, but this is actually a little bit low as far as what I usually have. 27% THC, but I'm telling you, it does the job. It's an ass kicker.
27 is no lightweight THC percentage. Maybe for you, but 27% is is definitely on the higher end for your average smoker. Plus, as we've talked about before, sometimes the terpenes and the different cannabinoids that are in the bud can have an effect on the high, even if the THC isn't at your 32 or 33%. It could be a 25, 22% and still kind of kick you right between the eyes and give you couch lock the way that higher percentage can sometimes.
Well, I was actually thinking about trying a lower percentage next time I go to the store just to experiment. Nothing wrong with experimentation.
Oh, experimentation is good. I'm hopeful that this time you can save a little bit of money and have good results again.
Exactly. Because, weed's expensive. I don't know why. It's a weed, but, they can monopolize it tax-wise and whatever it takes for me to be able to use my debit card to buy it, I guess. Here we go.
I'm hearing that in some markets, retailers are complaining about the overproduction of weed. I mean, it's a weed. It's really not that hard to grow. Once you get it kind of dialed in, it really isn't that difficult. It sounds difficult, but honestly, if anyone out there is thinking about jumping into growing, do it. Everyone should grow their own. It's fabulous. It's not that hard. Anyway, retailers are bitching about overproduction because it's going to drive the price down. And I've been saying from the beginning that this should not be anybody's cash cow. This should not be the goose that laid the golden marijuana fucking nugget, because you just grow it. It's a weed, and they need to get their hands off of it, and they need to stop trying to commoditize it and trying to keep it from everybody and keep these prices artificially inflated and artificially high, because the only people that are making money off it are the assholes that, okay, not entirely. I know there's a lot of good businesses out there. I'm kind of getting on a rant. But what I'm trying to say is the people that should be making money off of it, half of them are still in fucking jail. And the other half get priced out of the market because of regulations, when it should be like a tomato. I should be able to go to a farmer's market and buy it like a tomato.
Do you know it's like over $1 million to get insurance just to open a store?
Do you remember sitting on your couch high as fucking kites?
I do. We were going to start a weed business.
Writing business plans until 4 a.m. in the fucking morning because we knew legalization was coming and we were going to do it. We were going to grow.
I remember that.
I was going to be a farmer.
Yep.
I was going to fucking grow the hydro. You were going to have a store.
Yep.
We were going to sell the fuck out of that shit.
Yep.
We were going to make so much money, and we were going to have like the mom and pop shop. We were going to do so good. We were going to help people out.
We were even going to hook up with glass blowers and sell pieces.
We were going to have like a whole wellness center. We were going to have glass blowers and like people doing yoga and tinctures and meditation,
tarot readings, hypnosis, the whole thing. Like, we had a plan, man.
It was going to be beautiful. And then we realized we couldn't even afford to think about it.
Oh my God. Ha. Yeah, no.
The cost to enter is prohibitive. There's no way.
It was something ridiculous. I can't remember if it was 2.5 million or 5 million just for the insurance. Then it was like another, I want to say like 1.5 million for the application.
Just the application.
Who comes up with these numbers?
Greedy people, greedy bitches.
For real, greedy bitches.
Greedy bitches.
But I think as time goes on, and I can say this, I'm already starting to see it here. As time goes on, there is kind of an overproduction and a lot of competition right now. And
as it should be.
I found a store that I am going to actually check out next time I go to the store. And this particular place, you can actually get eighths as low as $25, when the cheapest I've ever seen so far is like about 48, but they usually range about 60 an eighth. They kind of have it on a sliding scale based on THC percentages, but I'm going to try some $25 weed next time I go and see if it's worth the while, shall we say. But I think this store could potentially be onto something as far as dialing into lower prices.
I really like that way of looking at it. If it's really tasty and, if it's really top shelf, whether it's top shelf because it has that higher THC content or it's top shelf because it's got that amazing aroma and smoke that you know I love and look for every time. I want something that tastes so good. It just makes me want to smoke it over and over again.
But that could be your once in a while weed. And then your
Right.
everyday weed could be the $25 weed, which I think ranged between, I want to say 16 and maybe 20% THC.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's a great daytime smoke.
Right. So I'm gonna experiment this next trip out I make here. I'm gonna try a new store. I'm gonna try me some $25 weed. I'll report back next time, folks.
I love it. I love that this podcast has got you trying new things and kind of breaking out of your box a little bit and being more willing to try something a little on the cheaper side. You know, I know we don't have unlimited pockets, but I know we also budget for weed. I know that's my entertainment budget.
But you also have to remember, I remember when I used to say quantity over quality.
That's true. That's true. And I know you have grown out of that. I know you are definitely more of the quality, although you still smoke a lot of quantity.
I do.
So no wonder you're looking for a little bit of a break for the moment.
Right.
If you lived closer, I'd share. As long as you did trimming.
Oh, see, I could
trimming is not my favorite.
I could do trimming. Actually, my boyfriend has special curved trimming scissors.
We've talked about this before. If you would come out when I'm trimming, I will buy you whatever special scissors you want. I'll buy you a special chair. I'll show you how to smoke scissor hash.
Ooh.
It's the best.
Ooh. Hey, I'm up for trying anything.
Exactly. Scissor hash is one of the few things that makes trimming worth it. You know, get some good music, good company. It's not that bad, honestly. I just hate doing it by myself. It just takes so long.
It's not that bad. You put on
yes, it is. Yes, it's that
music, you get high and you just zone out.
That's what I do. And I think about festivals. Oh, I went to a festival, like I was telling you before. Sometimes all the things we talk about don't make it into the podcast. Gasp, shocker. But yes, we were talking about a festival that I've been to recently. And I'm going to share my screen because one of our listeners, who also happens to be a friend, showed me something that reminded me of this. So can you see my screen?
I can.
So just recently, we went to a pot festival for the first time in a long time. I was so happy and it was so boring. It wasn't that bad. It was kind of nice actually to see all the stalls and everybody offering their different things. And I guess maybe it's the economy, but there were not as many freebies as I'm used to. I love getting free joints and free dabs and free edibles, and it just really wasn't there. And there weren't even a lot of deals. Like the prices I saw seemed to be the same prices you could get things in store. So it was nice to see the variety of places.
But not what you expected.
You're exactly right. So it was great to see there were some local farmers there. There were some local businesses. I really enjoyed that. And there were some performers there. And I did see my first smoke cannon. It may have also been a COVID cannon. I'm not sure. Looked like some sort of wild flamethrower, but it was a huge canister of weed. Ooh. And it blew out smoke like a flamethrower into the crowd. And people would just kind of put their faces up to the end of this like vacuum cleaner like hose and get blasted in the face. People were falling out coughing. It was great. You know, my husband wades in and puts his face in there. And I think people were a little worried about him. They had to like go find him in the smoke, but he was just all blissful in there, just taking it all in. It was wonderful. So that was kind of fun.
That is kind of interesting.
Yeah, it was really neat to see all the different things that people had. I got some infused honey that I had on our last podcast. I got some infused chocolate, and I saw this wonderful stash box. I thought it was super cute. It has the compass rose on it that you know I love,
yep.
and inside it had a hemp wick lighter. Have you ever tried the hemp wick to light your bowls with?
No.
There's a school of thought that the flame from a lighter is too hot and you burn off some of your cannabinoids, some of your terpenes, and some of your THC from the lighter. So this has a hemp wick wrapped around it, which is just like a thread that's cut usually some type of paraffin or some type of wax on it, soy wax maybe, so it doesn't burn very fast. And you light that with your lighter, and then you just use the little flame at the end of that hemp wick to light your bowl. And it's a lower temperature flame.
Oh,
You get a better taste out of your bowl, and you can potentially get higher because it's not going to burn off some of that THC before it gets into the smoke. But you can see there's a bunch of different types there. The grower said that he kept back a little bit out of all of his favorite cultivars over the past couple months, and he created this little stash box, and I think it's adorable.
I like the jars.
I do too. Aren't they so cute? I love things to put things in. And this is like a box. And then inside the box are these little jars and little tubes. And it's just fantastic. I love it. It has so many things I like. I wanted to show you that because this is from a listener and this is someone that we know. I'm going to give a shout out to Mel. Hi, Mel.
Hey, Mel.
I adore Mel. She is fabulous. She is also a maker, kind of like I am. And I'm going to show you this video. I absolutely flipped out when she sent me this. She has made herself this little stash box, and it's amazing. It's amazing. You said you liked jars.
Yeah.
Check out these jars. It's so cute. But I'm going to play you this little video. And I know our listeners can't see this, but it's this beautiful little old-timey medicine cabinet, just a little small medicine cabinet with like wrought iron instead of glass on the little doors. And inside, she's got all these different jars labeled with the different types of weed. And she's got a little shelf at the bottom for her bowl and her lighter. And it's just beautiful. I absolutely love it. It's so feminine and delicate. And it's got all these different types. And she has a stem jar. Lisa Ann, she has a stem jar. I have never kept my stems. And here are two people that I adore who keep their stems. I think I'm missing out on something. So isn't that like the most adorable thing? I love that it's all so pretty and organized. And I don't know what I'm missing out with the stems, but she had a jar labeled stems, clearly.
That is very cool. Very, very cool.
That's just amazing. What do you keep your weed in, Chelle? Do you have anything special or pretty?
What I do actually is I have, you can buy them at Target. They're like, let me show you.
I'd love to see it.
They are actually 4 or 5 inches high. They're mini mason jars.
My brother has that exact same one. I was just smoking up with my brother and I told him I wanted to steal that jar and he won't let me have it because it's all coated with keef on the inside.
Yeah, mine
I'm
is
still going to try and steal it anyway while we're visiting.
Yeah, mine is too, but it's a little hand size. I mean, you can fit about an eighth, maybe a little more in there, depending on how compact it is, but it's a little ball mason jar. You can get a 4-pack at Target for about $6-7. I love it.
That is super cute.
Yeah, so it's basically just like a mini mason jar. And then I have another one, same size, that I put all of my keef. I store all of my keef in that one. So I have one for buds, one for keef. I like it. It works. It's cute. Little screw top.
You know, I'm not a huge fan of packaging,
right?
But I did find this one shop that carries these little jars, and that's it. That's all it is. And they actually take these jars back. They will take these back, put them through a sterilization process and take the labels off and reuse them.
That's cool.
I love that so much. I also really like, and unfortunately in some of my moving, I have broken a lot of pieces, and I used to have some hand-blown glass jars that had all the little, the knobs and the bubbles and so pretty.
The cork tops. Yep.
That's right. I love those so much.
Yeah, I have a couple. I just am afraid to use them because I feel like they're so pretty. I don't want to break them.
I have a Stoned Witches public service announcement that I want to make to all the companies out there that package cannabis. First of all, stop that shit. Secondly, stop lying to yourselves and to your customers, telling us that we're going to reuse these glass jars. Do you know how many of these glass jars we end up with, or the little plastic jars? Nobody fucking reuses more than 1 or 2 of those. Stop saying that that's a selling point, because it's not. It's a lie. And honestly, if you're going to package your weed in anything other than a baggie, provide recycling for your own shit.
Correct.
If you sell it at a shop, provide recycling at that shop for your packaging, all of it.
We have spent what, 70 years getting weed in a damn Ziploc sandwich baggie. We are cool with it. It's okay. We're all right with it. Even get the Ziploc sandwich bags if that's what makes you happy.
We kept it away from our kids and our pets just fine.
So nothing more than a Ziploc sandwich bag. Like you can get 100 for $1.50 at like Stop and Shop. Like, let's do this.
Give me a discount if I bring my own glass jar.
That's the one complaint that I could probably make about Happy Valley is they're like these thick glass jars. They're heavy. Like you could like knock someone out with one of these damn things. Such an environmental waste.
Right? This particular company works with a lot of local farmers and they recycle all. This is all top shelf weed comes like this, but they accept all of these back. And again, they sterilize them and reuse them. And I love that. And I'll pay top shelf prices all day long for that. Packaging companies, they lie. I got into a Twitter fight with a weed company because they're like, oh yeah, our packaging is so cool. Look at how cute these jars are. You can use them for so many things. No, we can't. We don't want to. We want you to take them back and recycle them. And we'd really like you to have made them out of a hemp product. First of all, thank you. Rant over. So this is really good straw nana shell. It tastes so yummy. I'm going to have another bong. While I'm having another bong, I have a story for you if you're ready.
So you have some fabulous story you're dying to tell. Do tell. What's your story? What you got tonight? Spook me.
Chelle, I am so ready to tell you this story. I dived into this story expecting to find something that was very similar to a Sleepy Hollow kind of specter.
Ooh.
And I did, but I also found like some town intrigue back at the Civil War. I learned a lot about shadow people. This is a town with a lot of shadow people type hauntings, and a little bit about the stone tape theory that we've talked about before.
Well, start off by telling me, where is this story from?
It's a little town called Avilla, and it's in Missouri. Avilla, Missouri, like Avilla Magilla.
Avilla Magilla. only someone high would go there.
I'm a little high. Grape ape. You remember Magilla, right? Magilla Gorilla?
Magilla Gorilla. We are totally age dating ourselves, people. Totally.
Okay. So Avilla, Missouri is a very tiny town. And I mean super, super tiny. I think it says on the sign that it has population like 100. But according to some of the residents, it's less than 50.
Oh, so that is like kind of tiny.
It was once a booming town, and it was on Route 66 back in the heyday.
Back in the heyday? What, did they move Route 66?
Well, yeah.
Weird. Okay.
Well, that's what happened to a lot of Route 66 was hugely popular, but then they did move sections of it, and some of these smaller towns got completely bypassed. The only reason some of these towns sprung up was because of Route 66, not Avilla in particular, but some of them. And then when they moved 66, or they moved the main highway to a different area other than 66, all these, didn't you watch Cars? You watched Disney's Cars, right? That really happened. That was real life.
Oh.
Yeah. And Avilla was one of those little towns on Route 66 that kind of died out once it literally moved. So it's called a, what do they call it? A living ghost town. Not just because of the shadow people and ghosts that walk around, but because it was once a thriving town along Route 66. And due to a lot of different factors, it's become smaller and smaller until some say it has a population of less than 100 today. But back when it was founded in 1856, it was a thriving city. When the Civil War hit in 1861, most people in Avilla, like everywhere in the country, were divided and tensions ran very high. By 1862, Union soldiers were mostly in control in Avilla, but skirmishes were very common, and roving bands of Confederate soldiers called bushwhackers acted like guerrilla combatants. They would literally go around and attack civilians, families. They'd destroy properties and farms. They would rob stores. They'd attack travelers.
Oh, I feel like I've heard of bushwhackers before.
You may have. It was definitely a dark time, not just because of the Civil War, but because of some of these Confederate soldiers would run around like gangs, literally, and they would terrorize towns and people, and they would They would burn down houses. And in Avilla in particular, there was a man named, he was a doctor, Dr. Jacqueline M. Stemmons, and he was a vocal union supporter. And he was having a meeting at his home in Avilla when a bunch of bushwhackers came to his home and were threatening to burn it down. And Dr. Stemmons came outside and he started yelling at these bushwhackers, and he was telling them, go ahead, kill me. I don't care what you do to me, but don't burn down my home. My wife and my children are here. This is the only thing that's going to help them after you kill me. He's like, please, don't burn my house. And of course they killed him and burned the house down anyways. This was recounted by his son. They have an actual book in Avilla of firsthand accounts of people a lot of them who were children during the Civil War. But anyway.
That's kind of brutal.
It is pretty brutal. So after they killed Dr. Stemmons, people got really upset in the town. So this was March 8th, 1862, when Dr. Stemmons was killed and his house was burned to the ground by these Confederate bushwhackers. And so the Union soldiers in the area had a very good excuse now to hunt down and kill a lot of these bushwhackers. And so they did. The town itself got taken over in 1862 by Union soldiers. And so it was becoming part of the Union, and they were trying to eradicate these Confederate soldiers anyways. So burning down Dr. Stemmons' house, they were definitely after them. So one of these roving bands of Union soldiers is kind of patrolling the town, and they come across the body of a bushwhacker that looked like he had been killed a little bit before in a skirmish. He had been shot in the head, and his head was detached from his body. So they weren't sure if he had been decapitated or if animals had gotten to him at some point. So these soldiers decided to warn other bushwhackers to stay away from Avilla, and they hung his head from a tree at the edge of town. Some reports say it was an apple tree at the edge of an orchard. Some say that it was an Osage orange tree. I have no idea. So they hung this rotting head from the tree to scare people away, to scare other bushwhackers and show them what would happen if they tried to do anything in this town again.
Jesus.
Right? So despite being completely disgusting, they did that to kind of warn off these other bushwhackers from coming into this town and trying to perpetuate any of these crimes. And so they hung this skull from the tree, and all the fruit in this tree, shortly after they strung up the head, rotted and fell off, and no new flowers and no new fruit would grow. And crows started coming. And I imagine crows were coming because, it's, free lunch, right?
Oh.
Ew, I know. But so it's like free lunch. So you'd get some scavengers, but after a little while, there's nothing there to eat left. It gets all dried or whatever. But the birds kept coming, and they came in such numbers that the tree itself would look black from the roots to the crown of the tree because of the number of crows on it. They called this victim, this Confederate bushwhacker whose skull was hung there, they called him Rotten Johnny Reb. The skull hung there for about a year. And as time passed and the skull became more just bones and rotted, they say it still stunk like a decaying, dead, desiccated body around that tree, despite the fact that at this point, it's just a skull with maybe some hair left on it. People of the town of Avilla would remark that the death tree still smelled like a week-old corpse rotting in the sun. It was rank. It was disgusting. Until one day, the skull was gone, and all that remained was a rope hanging in the tree that had once produced gorgeous apples, but now just cracked dead limbs covered in bird poop, and it looked like something out of a nightmare.
That's weird.
It is weird, but time went on, as time does, and most people forgot about Rotten Johnny Reb hanging in the tree, and they moved on. But I don't think Johnny did. Soon after the Civil War ended in 1865, people in the town started reporting a disgusting stench of decay and death wafting over the town, particularly on the side of town where the death tree was. And then, much like the headless horseman, stories started to pop up of his body wandering through town searching for his head, usually dressed in like a long dark duster, sometimes carrying a rifle, other times carrying a lantern. Strange stories of a headless man walking the roads at night began to circulate. And there was talk amongst people of an eerie moaning wind that would accompany the smell and the sight of this headless man roaming the streets. Some reports said that he seemed like he was searching for something. And sometimes he'd crawl through the grass. They'd see this headless body crawling through the grass, and they could smell the stench of his rotten body preceding him. And the rumor is that if you could smell him, you were in danger.
Oh.
And the legend says that he wants to kill all Yankees and kill anyone that may have had anything to do with him losing his head. And there were several murders in town that have all been attributed to Rotten Johnny Reb. And quite a few townspeople, even to this day, have said that they have seen him. He's sometimes called the Avilla Phantom Bushwhacker. And supposedly, he's cursed. Now, the reason they say that his ghost is tormented and stuck here and has to find his head is because when he was killed. I bet you can guess when he was killed, Chelle. I know you can. Just think for a second. Use your psychic powers. When do you think he was killed?
Probably Halloween.
Whoa, Chelle, how did you know?
I'm just guessing.
Oh my goodness, you are like the world's best guesser. There's no way you could have known
those crazed psychic abilities.
Yes, of course, he was killed in the fall. And the rumor is that the reason he's searching for his head continuously is because he was killed and decapitated on All Hallows Eve. And so this headless body, much like the
headless horseman,
wanders around looking for his head. Now, again, supposedly this head is hanging from a tree. And the rumor is that it never disappeared. It's just it kind of maybe shifted realities.
Ooh.
And that his head is still hanging there. And that if you smell him, your only chance of survival is to find the tree where his head is hanging and cut it loose.
Oh, Lord.
And if you don't, he's going to get you and kill you. And so it sounds like a fun ghost story, but then the actual deaths began in Avilla.
Oh, shit.
Now, this one ghost story I heard said that either in the late 1890s or the early 1900s, that people began reporting the stench of Rotten Johnny Reb walking through their town more often than before. So one morning, after a particularly bad evening with a foul-smelling cloud that had been following people around town, people are waking up. Smells beautiful today. Yay. The stench that followed us last night is gone. It's a bright, sunny morning. Until they found a body outside the local tavern. A young poor woman, by some accounts a streetwalker or lady of the night, was discovered dead, nearly bloodless, and with her head practically severed from her body.
Oh, wow.
No leads, no suspects, nothing, no blood.
Oh, shit.
The death was, of course, blamed on Rotten Johnny Reb. There have been supposedly more unexplained deaths in the town, all blamed on Johnny. And again, to this day, people say that you have to use caution at night in Avilla. And if you're unlucky enough to smell him coming, the only options that you have are to run far and fast so that he doesn't take your head, or hope you have a knife with you and that you can find the death tree where his head is strung up. The only way to survive an encounter with Rotten Johnny Reb is to find that death tree, cut his head down from where it's hanging, and bury it on holy ground.
Wow.
So they say, even to this day in Avilla, that you shouldn't go around after dark without a sharp knife, just in case you do happen to run into the headless Rotten Johnny Reb, so that you can cut down his head if you find it. Otherwise...
And what, eat it like an apple? So Headless Horseman, so Sleepy Hollow.
It's one of those myths, much like the hitchhiking lady in white, that kind of perpetuates in some form or another. So yeah, Rotten Johnny Reb, powered by Satan. Oh, who did it? Satan. Or, maybe it's just a ghost story. Who knows? This town has more than just the cursed Rotten Johnny. Maybe there's something in the land there that holds ghosts, but this town is known for being rife with shadow people. And as you know, shadow people are those human-like forms that you see out of the corner of your eye, or full-on shadows of people that you see in front of you when there's no person there. And it moves like a person, it walks like a person, but it's not really a person.
It's a shadow. It's a ghosty.
Now, there are numerous accounts. People say that they see shadow people all over this town, mostly the stone tape type ghosts, the recorded type ghosts that is just a brief snapshot, maybe the shadow of a woman in a dress walking down the street, or a lot of people report seeing them in the houses, both the houses that are currently occupied and the ones that are abandoned or empty, which this town has a plethora of. So they'll see shadow people walking past the windows inside a house that's abandoned, just like your mom's house. Not that her house is abandoned, but occasionally people will see old time dressed people just walking down Main Street, shadows of people in big hoop skirts or in suits and big hats when there's nobody there.
Right.
Outside of the bar, very often people will see a shadow person kind of stumbling backwards, clutching his chest as if he's a drunk about to fall down, or maybe someone who got shot. And it's seen repeatedly outside of the same bar in town. So I couldn't find any current accounts of people having smelled or seen Rotten Johnny Reb, but I could find accounts of people who have seen shadow people, even recently. The stories of the shadow people go back to the 1900s and has continued to this day.
Oh, wow.
So mostly they seem to be shadows of people from another time that are just going about doing the same thing that they did either shortly before they died, or maybe at a moment of extreme emotion, or at the moment of their death, like that bar patron where you see him clutching his chest and staggering backward, even though there's no one there to cast that shadow. Just 2 months ago, a woman, Amanda Collins from Avilla, says that she had been living in Avilla for about a year and had never heard of the shadow people or the shadow man. But she reports that things kept happening to her 2-year-old. She says he cut his top lip with scissors, and her older children said that it wasn't the 2-year-old that did it. It was the dark man that made him do it. And she says there were countless things going on with her little boy, and that one night the whole family witnessed him fly out of his seat at the dinner table like he was pulled. He was constantly getting hurt. And the older kids said it was the black man. And it wasn't until they moved away that she saw an article about the shadow man and the tall man from that town. So she didn't even know. Things kept happening to her kid that were really freaky, and she didn't even know until she left. There's a gentleman also, Reese Phillips. I've seen him in a couple documentaries. To be fair, I've also seen it commented from people in Avilla who say that Reese does not represent them. So I'm just giving you both sides here. But Reese Phillips says that he lives in what was once the general store, and also possibly the original meeting place for the Masons before they built their permanent place back in the 1800s. And he says that he and his family are sharing this space with at least 5 known ghosts. He says that objects regularly move, both when they're watching and when they walk out of a room and come back in. And that he says he and other people that come to the house are regularly grabbed, like grab their ankles, grab their clothes, grab their hair. To him, these shadow people seem very interactive. And he says he's had several encounters with them. He says he often sees them kind of peering around corners, but if he looks at them full on, they disappear. In particular, there's one ghost that the family calls the tall man. And this tall man's shadow actually grabbed his wife, Nicole, out of bed, dragged her out of bed. And although no one saw the tall man that she says pulled her out of bed, she had red marks all around her neck, right? His wife, Nicole, reports that she once woke up and saw what she thought was her daughter, 6-year-old, in the room, just kind of standing there motionless. So she gets out of bed and the girl's gone, no one there. And feeling a little freaked out, obviously, she goes to her kid's room and finds her sleeping soundly in bed. But she distinctly saw her standing oddly motionless in the center of her room just minutes before. Another resident of Avilla, Jake Pennington, he says his home was built on the foundation of a home that had been built in 1884. Behind his house is a barn that no one wants to go in. The barn was built in the early 1900s, and he says everyone, even their pet, is scared to go in there. Everyone feels immediately creeped out just going out to the barn. And one time while they were working on the fence line of the property, they found a headstone, a marker stone for a graveyard. And so they checked into records to find out what it came from and discovered that their property had actually once been a church. And the church itself sat where their driveway currently was. And the back part of the house and where the barn sits had been a slave cemetery. He says that they can often hear people talking in other rooms of the house, even though no one is there. And he hears shushing when they come in the room, and then it goes quiet. Very often on their baby monitor, and this would freak me out. I mean, don't mess with kids. I hate it when ghosts mess with kids. But he says sometimes they can hear what sounds like heavy breathing and moaning coming through the baby monitor, even though there's no one but their child in their room sleeping soundly. Or sometimes when no one is in that room at all. And he says that sometimes items will move so quickly, like not just, you go out of the room and you come back in and a chair's moved. He says sometimes like a bottle will slide across the table so fast when they turn to look at it, the bottle's not moving, but the liquid in the bottle is still sloshing. There was also an investigator. This town has been investigated by numerous amateur haunting investigators, as well as a bunch of other groups. This one group, Haunting History Online, they were doing an investigation in Avilla, and I believe one of their investigators, Holly, she caught an EVP, like a musical EVP. When she played it, it almost sounds like some of that like old tinny music. I don't know, like those old cylinders, like a music box, almost like that really tinny music box type music. She was in a completely empty room alone doing some EVP recordings, and she caught that music. And a lot of the ghosts seem to be from that earlier time period, from right around the Civil War. From a lot of our investigations, we've discovered that sites where mass brutality or something terrible happened tend to be places where these recording type hauntings happen. So I wonder if that's kind of what happened here.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So is it like, there's the cowboy shadow, there's the Grim Reaper shadow, the evil shadow, and the happy shadow?
It kind of seems like that. It's like the Inky, Blinky, Stinky, Pinky,
Winky?
And Bob. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of different kinds of shadows. There's orbs everywhere, much like a lot of the different Civil War sites that you've talked about. Orbs seem to be everywhere in this town.
Well, and I think probably shadow people are the most common thing that your normal everyday person is going to happen to see.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. I guess it could be pareidolia, that thing where we tend to have a tendency to see human faces and forms. Right. So it could be that. But a lot of people report seeing the same human, like this bar in Avilla, people see a shadow person clutching his chest and stumbling backwards as if he was shot or if he was drunk. That's not pareidolia. I mean, if people are seeing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
It's kind of interesting. But I wouldn't want to be wandering around town at night and smell something stinky and then see a headless guy with a lantern crawling through the grass in a duster at me. That would be pretty freaky.
I would be freaked out.
I'd be freaked out.
I'd be freaked out. It's a town that's just resonated with activity.
And it seems to be, the area itself might be
conducive to activity.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so this is the Phantom Bushwhacker. He's one of those headless horseman type myths that wanders around the town and searches for people to kill and murder.
Ooh, I want to go there.
And maim.
I want to find them.
Avilla, Missouri. Yeah, carry a knife and walk around town, avoid all the shadow people. And if you smell some horrible stench, look for the nearest apple tree and hope you find a head hanging there that you can cut free.
I am going to get on that shit right now. Current news. This isn't like,
oh God, I don't want to hear current news. Let me pack this bong first because fuck the current news.
This is good current news.
Okay, hold on. One more. I'm sorry. Maybe it's the straw nana. I don't know.
Rant it.
One more PSA. I'm only going to say one fucking thing about the Supreme fucking Court.
Fuck them, man.
Fuck them, and links in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, tell me some good news, Chelle.
So now this is a couple weeks old. I forgot about it last time because I was high, but I wanted to circle back to some news that happened in May for me locally.
Ooh.
What was the date? I want to give you the exact date here. So this was May 26th. So May 26th, 2022, finally, it took more than 3 centuries, but the last Salem quote unquote witch who hadn't officially been pardoned up to this point was pardoned.
Yay.
Yep. Massachusetts lawmakers formally exonerated Elizabeth Johnson Jr., clearing her name after 329 years for being convicted of witchcraft in 1693 and sentenced to death at the height of the witch trials.
Oh, wow.
Now, she was never executed, but neither was she officially pardoned like the other wrongly accused of witchcraft. So lawmakers agreed to reconsider her case. Check this out. This is why you gotta love kids, because they don't give a shit, okay? Lawmakers agreed to reconsider her case last year after a curious 8th grade civics class in North Andover, Massachusetts, took up her cause and researched the legislative steps needed to clear her name.
That sounds like a really interesting civics class.
Right.
That would have gotten me to pay attention.
So in the statement, the North Andover teacher whose students championed this legislation praised her teenagers for taking on the long overlooked issue of justice for this wrongly convicted woman. She was the last witch accused, like I said, to be cleared. These kids, 8th graders, they did it. They made it happen.
How many 8th graders do you know that give a shit about civics class?
Exactly.
How fun. And as we all know, now in case you're curious, none of the women or men who were tried in Salem were actual witches. I mean, it's possible that 1 or 2 were, maybe, but for the most part, I'm pretty sure they were just regular average people.
20 people from Salem and neighboring towns were killed, and hundreds others were accused during the frenzy of pure injustice in 1692, stoked by superstition, fear of disease and strangers, scapegoating, petty jealousy, and gossipy bitches.
Greedy assholes and gossipy bitches.
Yep, 19 people were hanged and 1 man was crushed to death by rocks. So
Giles fucking Corey.
So 2 things to point out here. Out of the 20 people that were convicted and killed for witchcraft weren't witches. And B, none of them were actually burned. You know, there's a whole burned at the stake thing. They weren't. They were hung or crushed.
Do you remember the poem Never Again the Burning?
I do.
Oof, powerful shit, man.
I do.
Powerful.
You know, you should link that shit in the bio today. But one more thing I want to state about this, and this is where injustices happen. And I think this is where this 8th grade class decided to take this on. You want to know why she was the last witch last supposed witch after 329 years to not have been pardoned yet by the Massachusetts government?
Why did it take so long for them to pardon her? What was special about her that she didn't get a pardon?
Because she didn't have any family to advocate on her behalf. So nobody went to the government and was like, pardon her. So basically,
these 8th graders picked up her cause
329 years later. So all of the other folks that were accused of witchcraft had descendants that kind of fought that cause on their behalf at one point or another and made it happen. And this particular person did not. And therefore, the government just didn't do shit about it. So because she never had children and no descendants to act on her behalf, there she sat, basically not exonerated. So it kind of, her story and struggle really kind of resonates in some issues that happen in this day and age. While we've come a long way since the horrors of the witch trials, women today often find their rights challenged and their concerns dismissed. And we'll leave that at what it is. And again, refer back to previous links in the bio.
Whole different motherfucking podcast.
But isn't it just shitty that the government can just kind of pass you by because nobody kind of speaks up for you? Like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, they knew it was wrong. Why wouldn't they just exonerate
You
her?
know it's
Why did they
wrong.
have to leave it?
Yeah, you know it's wrong. You exonerate every other person that was accused of witchcraft. You're like, meh, she didn't have any family, so screw her.
So
Whatever.
leave it on the books. Like you said, they knew it was wrong. That's such bullshit. Such bullshit. I'm so glad though. What a cool thing for an eighth grade class to do.
These kids, they made it happen. Where adults kind of dropped the ball for, oh, I don't know, 329 years, just saying. This eighth grade class, like, got it done.
And kudos to that teacher for coming up with such a good idea to help the kids learn about these things. Because how better to get interested in what you're learning than to actually do something instead of just like memorizing facts and regurgitating shit on a homework. You're actually doing something interesting, getting involved. I think that's so cool.
I think it's cool that the kids did it. I just wish it didn't come to that.
Yeah.
But I have one more news story.
Oh, what's your one more news story?
I love these news stories. So this one was actually from just a couple days ago. And you know how I just love crazy, weird, haunted shit. This guy, I'm not even sure where he's from. Maybe, I don't know. We'll get to that. So there's this guy. He's like sleeping, and he actually runs a page called Really Haunted, a YouTube page called Really Haunted.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How haunted is it? Really haunted?
Really, really haunted.
Really? It's really haunted?
And kind of, it makes you afraid of ghosts and technology colliding. So this is where you don't want ghosts and technology to collide.
No, you don't.
So this dude runs a YouTube page, Really Haunted, and he has alleged paranormal adventures that he records within his house. Sounds like our type of guy.
So his whole house is super haunted too?
Apparently. So the guy, like any other rando in 2022, has an Alexa.
Of course he does.
Woken up in the middle of the night by banging sounds, and then all of a sudden his Alexa device activates and starts talking to him. It says, "She was my wife."
The Alexa said that?
Yeah, and he kind of jumps up and is like, "Who was your wife?" And the Alexa speaker says, "You took her from me." And he's like, "I didn't take anyone." Who?
What?
He's like, he didn't know what was going on. And then Alexa says, "I found her here." And then the speaker began laughing before the guy then tried to turn it off. What do you say to that?
So the speaker began laughing?
Yeah.
Hold on. That's so weird. That's so creepy.
I mean, there is, I guess, a feature where you can have Alexa dictate messages, but like, what the hell? It was more about, I found her here. Like, what'd you find here? Like, what's going on? So there's actually a video of this, and you can find it on YouTube. Like I said, this guy, what did I say the name of his thing was? YouTube channel, Really Haunted. You need to check this shit out.
Wow. That sounds, holy cow, that sounds super creepy. Those Alexa things scare me. I mean, when they say random things, ooh.
You don't need an Alexa. You have your whole life lived without an Alexa, listeners. You don't need one. If you have it, get rid of it. Scary. Or remember, it's just a ghost box.
It's a what?
A ghost box.
They are not.
Why not?
Why are they a ghost box?
Why not?
Oh my goodness. Well, I guess if they're going to start talking about you took their wife from them, maybe it is a ghost box.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
If my Alexa started talking in the middle of the night, I would shit bricks. That would be terrible.
I don't even use the Bixby on my phone.
Oh no, I don't use that either.
First of all, I'd like to say before I start my story that I am proud of you. You went first. I always go first, and you went first today. So good job.
Why, thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm sure all of our listeners are surprised. Laylla went first today.
It happens. Hey, it happens.
I've been on this kick lately. I don't know why, but I have been. We're going to talk about another cryptid.
Ooh, okay. What cryptid do you have for us today?
So I'm actually we're kind of teetering on the same part of the country. We kind of both went like mid-America this time around instead of like
Perfect.
Total
Perfect.
East Coast, West Coast. My story is coming out of little old Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, okay. Louisville,
I should
Kentucky. All
say
right.
it's a town called Fisherville that neighbors Louisville. So basically right next to Louisville, Kentucky, in a town called Fisherville.
Okay.
So there is what's called the Pope Lick Monster.
The Pope Lick Monster? It's a really?
I'm not making this up.
Really? The Pope Lick Monster. How did it get that name,
We're
Chelle?
getting there. We're getting there.
Okay.
Some of the locals just call him the Goat Man.
That's not near as fun as the Pope Lick
The
Monster.
Pope Lick Monster. So as you can tell kind of by the name, where we're headed and what type of cryptid.
A Pope licking
A Pope
one?
licking one. Now this crazy one, this cryptid is part man, part goat, part sheep. And it is reported to live beneath a railroad trestle bridge over Pope Lick Creek. So that's why it's called Pope Lick Monster.
Pope Lick Creek?
Because it lives in a trestle bridge over the Pope Lick Creek.
Okay.
So numerous urban legends exist about this creature's origins and the methods it employs to claim its victims. I always find the cryptids, Laylla, that are going to kill you.
Yeah, you do. You seem to like those. I don't know. They're not soft and fuzzy, Chelle. I don't care how many sheep they say are part of them. They don't want you to pet them. None of these cryptids want you to boop their noses. I don't know why you like them. They're murderous, evil.
You want to hear something crazy about this particular cryptid? I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you anyway.
Yes, I do.
I'm going to tell you anyway. So this particular cryptid is like able to hypnotize people.
What? A hypnotizing cryptid?
Right up your alley. Here's the crazy thing. It can mimic voices. Once it hears your voice once, it can mimic it.
Well, that's not fair. That's got to be like cheating.
So like imagine if you're at this trestle with a friend and then your friend disappears, but it heard its voice. It'll start talking to you in your friend's voice and you just won't know. And you'll be like, ah.
No, so it could like pretend to be you?
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
That's so unfair.
So it has the power to hypnotize and mimic voices. And what it does.
Cheating. That is a cheating cryptid right there.
I mean, the best I can tell, think of it as like the troll at the bridge. He lives at this railroad trestle. And if he feels that you've trespassed, what he'll do is he'll use, the creature can either use hypnosis or the voice mimicry to lure trespassers onto the trestle to meet their death before an oncoming train.
So he lures them onto the tracks and then they get smashed by the train because they're not paying attention.
Correct.
Oh, gross. That's terrible.
Also, there are other stories that he'll actually jump down from the trestle onto the roofs of cars passing beneath it. Wouldn't that just freak you out if something jumped on your roof as you're going under the
I would hate that.
There's other legends that tell that it attacks its victims with a blood-stained axe, and that the very sight of the creature is so unsettling that those who see it while walking across the high trestle are driven to leap off.
It makes you want to leap to your death.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Now, here is an interesting, I've always been interested in this kind of tale, so to say, but kind of an origin legend. Like I said, it was part man, part goat, part sheep. Mm-hmm. But it seems to one of the origin stories, so to say, is that it was actually a circus freak that vowed revenge after being mistreated. Basically, one of the stories is that it was a caged circus freak forced against its will, and that it escaped after the train derailed on the trestle, and that it basically made its home underneath the trestle. Also, another twisted origin story.
Yeah, that one's sad.
Yeah, this origin story is commonly told by locals, and they claim that it's a reincarnated form of a farmer who sacrificed goats in exchange for satanic powers. Just saying.
Not cool. Not cool. And it's never a good swap, guys. I'm telling you. The whole get satanic powers. It's like the Cracker Jack prize. It's never how you think it's going to be.
and generally a disappointment.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, as people have heard about this story, because really there was only sightings from about the 70s up to present. So this isn't like 100-year-old myth or a 200-year-old myth. We're talking like the last 45, 50 years. Basically, because this is, word has gotten out, people have heard of this, what have you. People go there. They want to meet the Pope Lick monster. They want to get licked.
Ew.
There's actually been a number of deaths and accidents at the trestle. There is actually an 8-foot fence around it, and people scale it just to get on it so that they can try to find the Pope Lick monster. And whether it be, maybe it is accidents, who knows, but maybe it is this Pope Lick monster and they're dying.
People are falling to their death from that trestle.
Well, there's a big misconception that the trestle is abandoned and no longer used, when actually it carries a major rail artery to Louisville. It gets used several times a day. So it's easy for someone to be on it. And I would imagine it's probably one of those that you're not going to necessarily, if you're on the trestle and a train's coming, you're kind of screwed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. There's nowhere to go.
Exactly. And some guy in 1988 made a 16-minute film called The Legend of the Pope Lick Monster. It was just like a short film. He did shoot some scenes up there, but then shot scenes in a safer location. The Northern Suffolk Railroad actually shut his movie down because it was drawing people to this trestle. But see, the thing is that the townspeople are kind of split. You got some townspeople who are saying, there's just a bunch of kids up there who got hit by a train. And then you got the other townspeople saying that the Pope Lick monster lured them to their death, essentially. There has been video evidence of this. I'm not saying it wasn't photoshopped or altered in any way, but there is video of this creature. There is reason to believe that there's something freaky going on at this trestle, to be honest.
It sounds like there's something freaky going on there. I mean, for sure, something's happening.
And yeah, I mean, there has been a couple people that have actually been able to kind of get away, so to say, before they've met their untimely death. And one of those was in 1988. And the guy is named Mike. He will not reveal his last name. And he said that he had been up there with a bunch of friends. They had just graduated high school. And so probably 18, 19 years old. And that he had gone off. They were going over to the trestle. They wanted to see what they could see, what have you. And they had gone, didn't see anything, no hypnosis, no mimicking voices, no train, nobody dies. And they were getting ready to leave. And he had kind of stepped off the path while his friends waited. And he was kind of relieving himself, we'll say.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And all of a sudden his friends kind of disappeared and he was kind of there by himself.
Like they ran off and left him, or like they appeared to disappear?
They were, it didn't really say. It was just they were no longer there. They might have just continued on to the car without him.
Okay.
All of a sudden, while he was peeing, he could feel on the back of his neck the breath of an animal. Like an animal breathing.
That close?
That close, that tall, right there.
Oh, no. No. That's a vulnerable moment.
It is a vulnerable moment.
You don't really want anyone to be breathing on the back of your neck while you're taking a piss.
He turns around, there's nothing there. So he thinks that...
Is that good or bad?
I don't even know.
We both relieved and freaked out.
I don't even know. So he kind of thinks that, maybe he had a little too much fun and was kind of freaked out because he was alone and was just like, oh, I must have been imagining things. Woo. And then he started hearing footsteps behind him and he turned around and it's what he described as roughly a 6 foot tall, part man, part goat, part sheep, fully covered in fur, walked upright on 2 legs, kind of had more of the goat head, more of a sheep's fur, but the stature of a human, looked right at him and then turned around and ran away.
Whoa, no way.
And this kid kind of questioned his own sanity for a little bit.
Oh, I bet.
He had seen a few mental health professionals. The guy ain't crazy, which is, I think, part of the reason why he didn't want to put out his last name, because he kind of wanted to put the story out there but not be ridiculed. because he claims he's not the type of person that necessarily believes in the oogly booglies. He felt that he got away basically with his life.
Sounds like it. Wow, that's super creepy.
And then there's also one more legend. So like I said, one of the theories is that he was a circus freak that got away from a derailed train. There's also a legend of a ghost train, which is also sighted on the trestle. So, there's also, again, some theoretical ghost train that's popping by every now and again.
Right. In addition to the regular trains that are running through. That's just wild.
Yeah. A lot of kids go there as kind of, I don't know, bravery tests or whatever.
Yeah, like that rite of passage thing that kids do, go to the scariest place in town.
Yeah. And unfortunately, every few years there is a death reported. Whether it's they fell from the trestle to evade an oncoming train, they were hit by a train, just disappeared, never to be seen. Like, there's reason to think that you might want to tread lightly near this trestle. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, especially if it can hypnotize you, make you do things that you wouldn't normally do. It's just creepy. Yeah. And the whole vibe just kind of makes people, kind of pushes them in negative directions.
Yeah. And so there was one guy, I'll give you one more example of something that happened. One guy actually described it as being mentally crushed as far as being a survivor of the Poplik monster. Mentally crushed.
So that's how he felt afterwards? Ooh.
That's how he felt after. So I guess this trestle is about 90 feet above ground, first of all. So it's not like if you jumped off it, the chances are you're going to get kind of squished, I would imagine. So there was this guy from Ohio, kind of a touristy guy. His name was David Nee. He hadn't heard a train coming. He was there. He was checking it out. He was touristy on the trestle. All of a sudden, he turns around. There's a train barreling down the hill towards him. He had not heard the train. Train was at this point now about 40 feet in front of him, and he still hadn't heard anything.
Oh, wow.
Now, this guy was about a 6'2" martial arts instructor, regularly lifts weight, kind of shifted into survival mode and jumped over the side of the trestle and kind of held on to the metal edge with both arms and basically, barely missed getting hit by the train.
Kind of like the Lost Boys kind of thing.
Yeah, but kind of like dangling off. The guy said he didn't think he would die. He thought he was going to get out of the way and be fine. He had his girlfriend with him, and he thought that his girlfriend would have jumped and kind of done the same thing. She never made it to the edge. The train struck her and knocked her 80 feet to the ground.
Oh, wow. Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah. She did not make it. You want to hear some bullshit? And I understand the law, and don't trespass people. It's not a good thing. So the Norfolk Southern Police charged this guy with misdemeanor trespassing on railroad property. So, his girlfriend just dies and, here's a trespassing charge.
That's terrible.
He, obviously would get some PTSD from it, but come to find out, I guess right before, when he was going to see, a psychologist and stuff, after the initial, news reports, this happens, everybody hears about it, story's over, he goes to counseling. Come to find out, he remembers hearing voices right before the train. So the theory is he feels that the Poplik monster not only voice mimicked, but maybe hypnotized in such a way that they didn't hear the train coming until it was too late.
So they couldn't even notice that it was happening, and
kind of like they took the reaction time away so that you have no ability to react and no option but to die.
So she didn't even jump. She just kind of stayed there. Did it sound like him? Like, was it talking like him?
No.
That's why she
it didn't
stayed?
say. The article didn't say. And this article was that I had found on this was from 2016. So we're not talking like a ton of time ago. I am going to vote end of story that there is a cryptid in the outskirts of Louisville.
It definitely seems like there's something going on that bridge. Certainly a lot of death happening there.
My greatest fear, people, is plunging to my death. So this might be one of those things where I think I'm good. I think I might skip this one. This is not one I might want to visit.
Yeah, that sounds like super, super creepy. So creepy, Chelle.
So weird that we both did like the middle of the country tonight.
I've got a headless ghost crawling through the grass, reeking to high heaven, who just wants to chop your head off.
And I got some goat man who wants you to plunge to your death off a damn railroad trestle.
Yeah, middle America, not a fun place to go.
Right?
Super
right?
creepy and scary, I think.
I think the moral of the story is there's ghosts and cryptids everywhere, not just on the coasts.
No matter how small your town is or whether Route 66 has passed you by, you probably have some sort of scary ass ghost or phantom in your town.
You got something fucked up too. And you probably got good weed in your town too. Look at that.
Probably. I don't know. I guess these small towns can go either way. They're either completely dry or they've got the most amazing bud ever.
Right? Right?
At least in my travels, that's what I've found.
I think we'll wrap up our show tonight with a little happy ending.
I don't think that means what you think that means.
I was talking about a big fat chillum full of weed.
Oh, that's the kind of happy ending I am definitely here for. All right, big fat chillum full of weed.
I think it's time for a big fat ending smoke and a wrap it up. And we should, for future episodes, we should have our listeners like vote on this. How funny would that be? We should have like a closing jingle that you and I like sing or something.
I can't hold a tune. I don't think anyone wants me to sing. I mean, that would be pretty scary. It would be fitting in the theme of scary things. But other than that, I can't sing. You could sing a jingle.
We'll have to get a singer. Someone sing us a jingle.
Yeah, give us a little tune to kind of close things out with.
Anyway, since we don't have a jingle, I guess we'll just have to stick with stay high, stay stony, stay spooky, witchy, wicked, and weird.
Wow, I think she's covered everything. Stay out of the woods, kids, because it's creepy out there.
Go to the woods. Just stay off train trestles. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Stoned Witches Hour with Laylla and Chelle. Please join us next week on Wednesday for episode 24, where we smoke even more weed and try to spook each other out with spooktacular tales of the paranormal, the gruesome, true crime, and the just plain weird. If you liked today's show, please give us 5 stars or maybe even a review on your favorite podcast app. It does a lot for us. Not only does it make us super happy and excited every time we see one of your emails or comments come through, but it also helps the show out and gets us out there to more listeners, and we really, really appreciate it. So thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time at 4:20 a.m., the Stoned Witches Hour.